What's up guys, it's Harry Haas here, and today I'm just going to be kind of doing a video on daily process reminder plus some trade recaps and some hot recent patterns. So without further ado, I'll just get right into it. So this morning we had CBLI. That was kind of the main one going into the open. And my plan on it was kind of changing closer to the open. And the reason why is because with longing, it's so hard to make a watch list 30 minutes before, or even 20 minutes before, or sometimes even 10 minutes before, because the stock is just moving around so much, it's so volatile. Sometimes it's up 20 cents, then down 20 cents, and as that stock moves, as the opening price, or as the price changes going into the open, and as that opening price is subject to change as well, so is kind of my plan and the lines that I'm going to use. Whereas if you're a short seller and your plan is to buy a 330 pop on a low-hanging fruit that isn't really moving, then what you're going to be kind of looking for is in the morning, that kind of 330 pops your level and a fade down. But you're not going to have the same volatile pre-market, or at least I hope not, that you would be getting on something like CBLI. So that's why it's kind of harder to make a long plan in the morning compared to a short plan. And I also think with the long lines, they're subject to change as well. And the short lines are more so set in stone. And what I mean by that is that if you're a short seller and you want to short the 350 outer line and your stock finally gets to 350, well, if it's a true outer line on, let's say, a broken stock or a stock that is kind of half broken, then yeah, it probably will stuff up there at those outer lines, because that's going to be the place where longs are going to want to take profit. And it's probably, by the time it gets there, going to be super overextended. So that's why those lines are kind of a little bit different than the long lines. Because as we saw from CBLI this morning, CBLI ended up doing a 50-cent move higher and then got stuffed and ended up from that high dropping $1. And after that kind of action, that's not something that I really want to see. So I think for us longers, that type of action for us can be subject to change for our plan. But as a short seller, your plan is more so set in stone and not as subject to change as maybe my plan. And it's not saying that our plans are any better or any worse. It's just kind of how it goes and how I've tried to do it over the years, really. And I guess the reason being is that 30 minutes before, I would say, well, I want to long the 220 line. This is a great support line. I really want to long it. Well then, 10 minutes closer to the open, we've moved $1 higher. So if it got to that line, then all the longs would be underwater, everything would be trapped, and by the time it finally got there, it just wouldn't work anymore. So that's why you just can't really plan too ahead with this stuff like this. Whereas a lot of the shorting broken stocks, usually you're not getting the same volatility as you are on the hot chick. So that's just something I wanted to point out as well. So the plan was to do the CBLI bounce. Obviously that didn't work, ended up stuffing. It was no trade according to my plan. I ended up taking the ACOR trade. The CBLI set up later in the day for a dip and rip, and then I took that kind of dip and rip trade, and a lot of other members ended up getting that one as well. So I was super happy to see that. I was getting tagged in all these posts of people just like, oh, thanking me. I'm just kind of paying it forward, sending the elevator back down, and these videos are really fun for me to make because it also kind of reinforces my process as well. And sometimes when I'm going to take a trade, I'm like, you would say that you can't do that if you were making a video. So, I mean, sometimes it keeps me accountable as well, and it's really fun to do. So this morning on CBLI, even though I didn't end up trading it in the morning, I just thought that I would point out and mention my morning plan on it, because this can help longs create a plan, and it's even better because it didn't work and I didn't end up taking the trade, but this can make you kind of understand why I avoided it and why I didn't want it. So basically, CBLI at 10:25 my time, which is 9:25 market time, I said CBLI watching the 4 line. So we're in around here. I'm like, yeah, $4. This area, kind of looking at it. Then we move a little bit higher. It's like, well, I guess I can still look at this one and this one as well. And then we start moving a little bit higher. And it's like, well, what am I supposed to take? 425? That's a little bit too high. Am I supposed to take the $4 line? So then I'm like, okay, 420 to 4. We'll see how it kind of goes. Maybe it shoots through 420 and we end up getting a bounce at 4. So it was that kind of stuff that I was looking for. So as we move higher, my support lines kind of move up a little bit. But in this case, we end up going super over the pre-market highs, and then we end up just stuffing almost $1 a share down. And in this type of scenario, this is a stock where it's like, I get a lot of questions where it's like, how do I know it's too heavy into a bounce? This is where you should not be trying to bounce this stock because it's just too difficult and too hard. And I knew that after this stuff move, it's probably an avoid, and you should just let it go, let it be. It's all done. Just do that. Just let it go. So that's basically what I did. I let it go. It ended up going lower. And for this type of scenario, it just started kind of dying a little bit. And I said, yeah, I can't long this at 31 because you just couldn't. It's just impossible to long this type of stock and this type of action. And especially when all these longs are trapped. So it's going to take a while for us to flush out all those people. And this was a stock that I said, okay, obviously this has turned into more of a short. But that's okay. I'll let James and Tom and Alex and everyone else hit it, and that's fine. I know that this stock is now not a stock that I should be longing. And that's okay with me. That is okay. So I think this is a scenario where I do get a lot of questions of people asking me, hey, like, how do I know? And hey, like, how do I know when is a good time to take a line? Like, how red should the candle be? This is a scenario when you probably should not be taking a long trade into a big stuff move like this, because the odds of this bouncing over highs again are like pretty much zero. So you just don't want to take that and just move on and say, okay, well, that plan didn't work. Or if you did take the long at 4, either stop out or just sell quickly into this bounce and just make sure you're out of it, because when you get a giant dramatic stuff move like that, which I'm going to kind of talk about different kinds of stuff moves today as well, because that's a topic that has been coming up a lot, where a lot of people have been saying, well, I avoided it because it's stuffed, but then it ended up squeezing higher. So I just want to kind of talk about that as well today. But this is obviously a very bearish stuff move. This is not something that we like to see, and that is why I just couldn't take it. But as we started grinding higher at 10:54, I've been trying to be a bit more vocal in chat. Usually I just kind of I don't try and keep my ideas to myself, but usually I'm just so focused that I just kind of forget. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I caught that move. And sometimes you just get into the ticker and you just get into the action that's going on, and you start thinking about what you want to see. You start thinking about everything else. You zone everything out. You're just watching that kind of ticker. And then you're in it, you see what you like, and then it goes higher. So I've been trying to program myself to be like, okay, you can say the action that you're looking for. Because a lot of people have been like, well, how do I know this stock or that stock? So I'm not giving alerts or anything. I'm just saying, okay, CBLI, watching for a reclaim here, it's grinding, patience, and that was what was required. And here we got this little stuff move into VWAP. But notice how we start continuing higher. That is something that is more so of a bullish stuff move, because had we broke this 375 level or even gotten down to this level, that would have been clearly bearish, clearly something that we don't want to see. And also, it's the first VWAP test, so you always need to be expecting that the first VWAP test is going to reject, but it's what happens next that is really something that I care about a lot. So I ended up here with the 381 average, and I just ended up, it says 479, but I kind of sold in pieces. I sold a little bit into the 420 just to take a little bit of risk off, and then I sold a little bit higher, and that was done. That was my trade. And the reason being is because this was obviously an area that was hard to get by, clear resistance level over here, and I knew that we had probably trapped some shorts from down here, but I didn't want to chance it. And I know that this could easily break over 425 and then stuff right back down. It didn't. It continued higher. That's great, but I just wanted to take some off just to be safe, pay myself, and be really, really patient. We ended up getting this move over this kind of high. I like to sell over these kinds of highs because I know that from this point on, longs are really. I don't know why I did that. From this point on, longs are really starting to get greedy, and we've kind of probably squeezed most. This is like the max pain level for shorts, so the odds of us going lower are pretty high. We're pretty overextended now. We have just gone up pretty much on air. It's not like it was a grind all the way up. This was just one. This was like just a shot up, and we probably stopped everyone out. So that was why I just said, okay, I'm just gonna take it off. I'm done. I'm done with it. So I guess for this one, I do have a couple comments up here that I was saying kind of later in the day because I think this can help people as well. And I said, in order to get a trade like CBLI, we need to have longs chasing and shorts trapped. And that's exactly what we got. We had longs chasing up here. We had chat rooms in this. We had everything. But you can't blame a chat room for your loss. I mean, a chat room was definitely a part of this move. But I mean, at the end of the day, this had done 4 mil volume. This is a mixture of just over-eager shorts, chat rooms, tons of longs. Everyone's involved. Everyone's buying it. Everyone's going ham on it. That is what this kind of was. And that's what we kind of got. And so I just said, you can have trap shorts, but if they refuse to cover and longs don't want to buy, we won't get it. And that's completely true. Shorts don't want to cover. No one wants to cover. Everyone wants to be a stubborn short and just keep holding all the way down. Until shorts are forced to cover, which is what we kind of got over here, we will not see, we just won't see that this kind of action, because shorts here are now forced to cover. They have no choice. They have to cover. This is their max pain. I mean, they're shorting at 375. No one wants to be down, this much at 450. No one wants to be even down this much at 425. So, I mean, that is just kind of like, this is almost like a little bit of if you're short from down here, you feel it. You feel it. You're starting to sweat in this area. And by the time this happens, you are done. So it's really, really important that, we have these longs chasing and we have these shorts trapped as well. I said, notice how we had shorts trapped under VWAP, all longs chasing at 4.2. That is lethal, which is, which I definitely agree with because I said it. I'm just joking. But I was watching the grind. I watched it kind of trap. Chat rooms got involved. Shorts got trapped, and we got it. And that's exactly what happened. So, that's just the kind of day it was, and I was happy and grateful for it. So ACOR in the morning, this is one that really started to go after this one kind of stuffed. I noticed that this one was kind of moving a little bit higher. So I actually took some kind of just risking this pre-market high. I wanted to see it test VWAP. It tested VWAP. It tried to go lower and kind of couldn't. Similar to this one. Sorry, I just skipped way ahead there. But similar to this one where we kind of test VWAP and we go lower and then continue to go higher. That's what I was kind of my plan on this one as well. We kind of test VWAP, we kind of go lower, and then we start creeping higher. I got 126 on it. I sold at 457. I sold half actually at 450. We ended up kind of moving lower and then we continued higher. I sold the rest. Alex was eyeing that kind of line as well at 160, and that's kind of what I sold at. So I was just kind of saying, okay, obviously that this one's done. This one was starting to move higher. I took some of this one, and we ended up just kind of getting this bigger move as well, and then we got this massive tank lower. So, I mean, it's definitely a nail and bail market. It's fast action out there. You need to have a plan. 1.6 was the line up here, which is a perfectly great area. And this is also a great lesson on kind of Alex's plan, where Alex said 1.5, kind of 1.6 in the morning. Look, we got up to his line, and by the time we're at 1.6, 1.5, the stock is already super overextended, and it's okay for him to short. This is where I'm selling as well, right? 9 times out of the 10, me and Alex have pretty close sells because we're both kind of looking at the same chart. I'm just playing at the support levels, and he's just shorting into the resistance levels. I mean, I get a lot of questions every single day saying like, oh, like how come you long? How come you do whatever? I'm just playing the chart, and that's exactly what I'm doing. And we are all using the same kind of lines and same kind of framework on stuff like this. So I think it's important. I read Alex's watch list in the morning, I try and get as much information as possible. Sometimes on ACOR, you need to have that kind of daily briefing from Alex of his lines, because sometimes you're like, okay, I remember from Alex's watch list 1.5, 1.6 area, and Alex was also pretty vocal in chat as well. So it's not like I'm not watching the videos. It's not like I'm not paying attention to people who are short, because I love to see both sides and I love to see that perspective. And I think that if you're too convicted to your long ideas, and you don't have that kind of dose in reality, that those people that keep you in check, then you're really, sometimes you can start to stray away. It's like the opposition in politics, you're going to have one side trying to do their thing, and then another side who's going to argue it every step of the way. And it's the same stuff with this, where, I'm also, paying attention to what the short sellers are saying as well, because sometimes I can say, okay, you're right, this stock is pretty broken, and maybe my idea is really wrong on it. But, there are also sometimes like this where you have a plan for a lot higher, and then you end up because of that kind of briefing, or because of that extra information that you got from those people, you were able to make a really, really good and clean decision. And I wasn't trying to hold it for 1.8 or 1.9. I understood the lines and I understood the process, and that's why I was able to get out. IDXG. This one was from 1014. Another one that I was pretty vocal about in chat as well. And this one was one that I was kind of looking into 420, and I ended up getting out up at these highs, I know. But sometimes with these ones, when you get these big moves, you never know where it's really going to go. So I just kind of took it out into strength. And the reason why I like this one again is because we get the same kind of formula where we start grinding higher after a VWAP test. That we do have shorts probably starting to fight it a little bit, and we have some longs who are kind of looking to buy either this VWAP break, or maybe they want to buy into the support. But here we go again with the same type of action. We get this kind of little stuff at VWAP. Everyone's like, it's done, stuff at VWAP, but we don't go lower. And in this scenario, we end up grinding, and then we shoot higher. So this stuff can sometimes bait people. This is like the bait stuff. This over here is a real stuff move, but this is like, this is like, okay, but we should have went lower, but we didn't. And in this scenario as well, I mean, you could argue that, you could argue here that that's the same thing as this, but I think that this is in two different contexts, and we do kind of try and break VWAP 1, 2, 3, 4 times, whereas this is kind of like okay, first test again, we go lower, and then we creep higher, and that's something to really, really be aware about. So I'm always kind of cognizant of that first VWAP test. I'm always trying to look around, and yeah, I mean, I was out at 484. What can you do? It's the name of the game. I mean, 572 came, but I'm happy with my profits. I'm happy with the way that my trading has been going so far. This one, same type of scenario. I wanted to show a lot of the same scenario and the same type of patterns that have been going on, so you guys can kind of utilize them every week. This type of scenario, here's what I noticed on this one. So this one, we kind of get the same type of action as all the others, right? I mean, they're fighting VWAP. There's a lot of volatility. We're trying to get over the highs, scalp. And then we kind of move lower. But we don't move too lower from VWAP. So that definitely got my attention, but I didn't want to long it over here. I didn't want to be too patient. I was kind of, I believe I kind of started some in here. We end up going above VWAP, and I think a lot of people think that this is a fail, or this is something that, and I don't think that shorting in here is necessarily a terrible idea. I mean, you have this line here, but you need to cover when you see this line really not being able to break. And we saw this line really, really not being able to break. And so that's, when I took some, we start to grind higher and higher and higher, and then we end up just squeezing everyone who was kind of holding for the all-day fade, the all-day short, who thought it was kind of done. It matched up with kind of some of these support lines as well. I wasn't ballsy enough to take the trade down there. I wanted to see it kind of reclaim 3 because I know that 3 is kind of a whole number. And we're just getting kind of the same repetitive action every single time. You just need to be patient enough to recognize it and let it come to kind of fruition, right? We see here, had I been trying to buy the breakout and buy this stuff move, I would have gotten crushed. But since I waited and waited and waited, was so patient for this action, I ended up getting rewarded, right? And same with here. I wasn't trying to buy into strength, and even though I did consider this a bit of a chase trade, it ended up working pretty well. So, these kind of under VWAP reclaims, this is almost like a VWAP reclaim part 2 video where I'm kind of showing that these kind of patterns and this type of action has been really hot. There are people who have been kind of holding all day, hoping for a fade down to 3 and a fade lower, and you may get that one out of let's say you get that 9 out of 10 times. But this one trade where you start grinding higher and higher and fight it, that is one that will crush you as a short seller. And we were also getting a ton of longs chasing. Longs were off the charts for this one. So I think that is something really important to go over. And this one as well. I already talked about this one, but this one again, try and break 3. We tried to break this, a lot, and then we start grinding higher. And once we kind of got here, that your thesis is probably going to be correct, but you never know. You might stuff, but we end up going higher, and it was great. And also, my risk is super, super good at 3 because, in hindsight now, I was in near the lows, but I was also thinking, okay, what can I risk off of? Well, I can risk off this low, this type of area. If it goes down there, you definitely don't want it anymore, but it kind of stayed alive, stayed in play, and that was something that I really liked. So I had already talked about this, but I just wanted to go over this slide again, the bullish versus bearish stuff moves, because usually when we hear stuff, it's usually super, super bearish, but there are times where a stuff move can kind of recover, and that can be actually interpreted as bullish. So I'd say for the bullish stuff moves, not as dramatic like we saw today on CBLI, still holds a key support level, it reclaims super quick, and it can keep continuing to grind higher. That's something I love. Bearish is dramatic. It makes a new low. You can feel it. It just tanks the entire stocks. It holds no key support level. It's just basically saying F you to longs. You can feel it. You can really, really feel it. Those are the ones where it's like, okay, this is a dramatic stuff move. It's something that it's like dramatic. Like everyone sees it and everyone's like, oh crap. That's something that is like a really, really dramatic stuff move. And there have been, this isn't like a holy grail. It's just another indicator that I'm saying, okay, we stuffed, but like, did we really stuff? Or did we just move kind of 10 cents lower? But if we move $1 lower, it's like, okay, like that's obviously a stuff move. You never want to be longing into a move like that. So it's always just important to kind of remember that, yes, for the most part, stuff moves are bearish. It's just a rejection with volume off a level. But if we can reclaim, and that rejection wasn't so crazy that we dropped $1 lower, then yeah, they can be bullish. So it's just something that I wanted to kind of bring up, because a lot of people are like, oh, I saw this stuff move at VWAP and I didn't want to take it. I was too afraid, and rightly so. I can understand that. But if we start grinding higher and higher and higher, and you're saying, well, that shouldn't have happened. Well, that grind higher shouldn't have happened. That's something that it's like, okay, we should not be grinding higher here. Like, if you're short and you're shorting that pop and it starts to go against you and you're like, well, it should have just tanked lower. This should have just been a higher low and it should have moved lower, but it ended up moving higher. That is probably more bullish than bearish. So that's just something that I would also include as well. And I thought I would do a little highlight reel. I've never done this before. Usually I just comment, good job. But today on CBLI, we got a lot of people who nailed the reclaim. And there were some who missed it as well. And don't worry if you missed it. You can always get the next one. That's the beauty of trading. Another one's going to be around the corner. As long as you're not chasing, and you're patient and you're waiting, you will be rewarded at some point. So I thought that I would kind of do the little highlight reel. And I guess the reason why was, I just thought today we had a lot of members nailing it and a lot of people who have kind of seen similar patterns and have been working hard and have been watching the videos. So I thought, okay, I might do one. So Flash, he also had nailed the reclaim going higher. So props to you, buddy. This is a great trade right here. And, just straight out of the video, straight out of the grinding action. So, he commented on my post and, it's great. So I also, just by the way, I asked everyone if they wanted to be included in the videos. Everyone said yes. So I thought I would mention that as well. But, props to Flash and props to Midtown as well. I mean, Midtown ended up he ended up kind of fighting a little bit here, but ended up making it back on the grind, was patient again, and he kind of got reminded today that patience is key. Thanks a lot, and, when you are patient, day and night trading, exactly. So I think that's first and foremost, that's key, just being patient, waiting for the action. That's kind of what you need to do. I mean, just be patient, wait for the action. If we get a stuff move like we talked about today, just avoid it. Let it kind of go lower. Don't be convicted to a stock. Don't marry your plan. And just really, for the most part, just be super, super patient and just adapt and just be okay. Like, tell yourself what you're going to do if the stock doesn't run. Walk away, don't fight. Just be cool. So anyway, thought I would just show Midtown out again because I know he has been working hard. He has been watching the videos. So, it is kind of nice to do stuff like that. And then also Vincent. Vincent has been working hard in weekend mentoring. I see him showing up every single week. He's putting in the work. He has been watching the videos. He messages me all the time. So that's the type of people that we want, You need to be always working hard, always striving for your best, watching the videos, paying attention to the watch list, waking up every morning, trying your hardest, using hard stops, and that's just the MIC process, what it's all about. So I thought I'd just say shout out to all those guys, great trades today. And again, I also got some messages where, someone had missed it by a little bit, or someone just had been a penny shy, or just, hadn't found the confidence to really go long on these setups yet. And it does take time. And so if you missed it today, the only thing you can do is really learn from it. And I think that's really, really important. It's just learn from it, keep developing and keep getting better and keep trying. And there will be a next one around the corner. So I just thought that I would say that. And thanks for watching, guys. And I'll see you guys next week for another video.